welcome to Fix It. I'm your host, Jeff Probst. This is the Fix It show for do-it-yourselfers. If you fancy yourself a weekend warrior or you like to futz around the house, chances are you're going to learn something on this show that will help you with those projects. On today's show, as you can see back here in our ballroom, we've assembled a makeshift couple of walls, and we have 4 wonderful volunteers. We're going to take you through the whole basics, really a 101 of painting, show you everything from what types of paint to use in what rooms, how to mask, and which brushes to use. It will be a learning experience, I guarantee you. We're also going to go to Massachusetts and check out a brand new 200-year-old home. This is a home that was built as an exact replica of a home that was made in 1704. We'll also show you some of the tools from that era and cover the evolution of tools. It's pretty interesting how many tools haven't changed at all and some that have changed greatly. But first up, I'm going to wander over here and introduce you to the woman who guides us through this maze of hammers and nails every day, Kat Ryman. We're going to take on this is something actually, Kat, that's very popular this time of year. Screen doors getting a lot of use, kids running through them. In this case, it looks like, I don't know, a dog or something.
Could be a very big dog, like maybe one of mine.
This is the first thing we're going to take off of. When it comes to replacing a screen door, what do you want to do first?
The first thing, get it off the track and get it away from the regular door, and then lay it down flat. So if you help me out, we're going to lay this down flat. Okay?
Is it easy to take off the hinges?
As a matter of fact, it's spring-loaded, so it's a pop-up and pull out. So yeah, it's extremely easy to do that.
Once you have it on a flat surface, next step.
Right, you begin your project, and what we have to do is clear this away, this screening away. And see this black here? This is a plastic molding that is sitting in a groove, and that's what holds the screening in. So you need to take that out, but while you're taking it out, take a close look at it to make sure it's in good shape, not weathered or broken. See how nice and flexible that is? So what you're going to do is you're going to take it out, you're going to check it along the way, and you're going to make sure that everything is okay, because if you need to get a new one of these, you have to bring it with you because they come in different lengths.
Okay, so you basically, if it's pliable and doesn't feel real rough or tethered, you're okay.
Use it again.
All right. When it comes to the screen, there's a couple of different ways you can buy this screen.
Yeah, you can buy screening in a roll, or you can buy it in sheet pieces. And when you have dogs that weigh 4,000 pounds, you buy them in roll.
Which you do.
Yes, I do.
So this is it. You can also buy it in a sheet. You want to make sure you buy it, I guess, a little larger than the door.
It's always going to be 3 inches probably on either side, top, bottom, left, and right. It's going to be about 3 inches bigger. Yeah, because you have to accommodate this groove. This is where this molding goes in.
What does this run?
About $1 a foot, whether it's a sheet or a roll.
Okay, so no better way to go as far as buying it, how to buy it?
No. Yeah, I mean, that's preference and how often you do it.
When you get back, you roll this out. This is really sort of a 2-person job.
You can use a 2-person job. I mean, the frequency in which I do it seems like every other day. 1 person is fine, but if you have 2 people, it goes a lot quicker.
All right. So you lay it out evenly over?
Right. You lay it out evenly over. Take a pull on that corner over there.
Okay. How tight do you want a screen door when you get it done?
When you start putting in your rubber molding again, you want it just tight enough like a well-made bed. Because if you tighten it too much, this is an aluminum frame, and it's going to bow and diamond. Yeah.
All right. You have 2 tools in your hand.
Yeah, I do. One's for you.
Okay.
That's a spline.
All right.
That is actually a tool for screening. Okay.
Really? Is this a necessary tool, do you think?
You know, I'll tell you what, you can use one. It does put it nicely into the groove. However, I started out with a screwdriver because I tuck it in. Then I use the spline to get it into the groove nicely. So you don't have to go out. You can use a screwdriver, but it's all up to you.
Were you picking any place in particular to start? Does it matter?
I usually start just tucking in so I get a nice groove in my corners.
Okay.
You don't pull this too tight because you can stretch it. So I just start tucking it in my corners, and then once my corners are tucked in, I go on and start to do the long lengths of the door.
How long is this? Is this pretty typical of how long it should take? 15, 20 minutes? Actually do the process?
I would even say less. If you got 2 hands, I would even definitely say less.
What is this on you like to talk about patience level and skill level, as I feel like we're doing a dance here. Patience level, where does this fall?
For my dogs, the patience level is a 10. But I mean, just to do this, it's about a 2.
All right, and skill level looks about the same?
About the same, pretty
Any
much.
recommendation on music? Sometimes music helps you do a project.
Well, since I'm going to be really unnerved, I need something mellow, a little mellow, you know?
So what's mellow? Steely Dan? A little,
Steely Dan, I love that Steely Dan.
From 70s.
Little
Okay,
peg.
a little music recommendation from Kat Ryman, our in-house expert. That's the first project of the day. When we come back, we're going out to Massachusetts, where they've built an amazing home. This is an exact replica of a home that was built in 1704. It's a brand new 200-year-old home. We'll show you that as Fix It continues right after this. Little tears that you had when you tucked it in, and those
Right.
all go away. You're
All
cutting
those
them
little
out.
tears or anything that you might have done while you were doing it.
One last good tip that you were mentioning during the break, which is you can take your old screen and use it out in the garden.
You sure can. You can use it around pots, and you can use it in pot for potting so the dirt doesn't come out of your plants.
Great. One last thing, Kat. Where'd you get that shirt?
It's from an artist friend of mine, thank you.
All right. Now, normally when you think about new homes, you think all the modern amenities and great style and luxury. But that's not always the case. When home renovator Carolyn Sly went to build a new home, she built one that was an exact replica of a home built in 1704. Take a look at this. If you lived in Massachusetts in the 1700s, the landscape would have been dotted with homes like this one.
This house looks very much like one which was built in 1704 in southeastern Massachusetts, but it actually was built from 1980 to 1986. My name is Caroline Sly, and I restore antique houses and build new ones with antique tools.
Susan McGowan is a historian who lives in the house Carolyn built.
You know, when you see something that speaks to you and you think it should be a part of your life, well, this house spoke to me. I felt as if I adopted it. It's a collaboration, this house and the owner. It needs me, I need it. Someone asked me once when I was having a physical if I had a Stairmaster because my cardiovascular was good, and I said no, I just carry wood from the cellar daily in armloads, and that's my exercise.
The house itself is nothing more than living space organized around the chimney. And the rest of the house was really not defined except by the pocket of the builder. You could have as much living space around the chimney as you could afford to build.
This would be known as the hall or the kitchen or that cooking fireplace. Come into the parlor, which is where you'd want to be if you were visiting me. This is the biggest room in the house, and it is the lightest also. When I want it to be warm, I light the fire, but the fire would not be lighted unless someone was using the room. That's the way it was. You didn't light a fire and leave it. It was lighted when you were expecting the use of the room. And the ceiling is, as you see, not very far above us. It's very low, and that was probably partly because of ease of heating. In an ordinary house, such as this is, there would be no heat upstairs, and you piled on the blankets or you took someone to bed with you. During the winter, no one took a bath because it was so cold and there were no tubs. So this is an early 20th century tub that delights the body.
In the 18th century, every surface that was shaped had to be done this way by hand planes. This is exactly the process that was used to make the walls of the old kitchen. This plane makes a bead. It's a rounded shape. Every pass of the plane makes it a little bit rounder here and also at down in the groove. You can see it already almost finished at the end. We're looking at the south-facing wall, which is, in effect, the solar collector, has the greatest number of windows, letting in the most light. The windows are much smaller than today's window because of the cost of glass.
It's believable as an 18th century house. I think you could almost be mesmerized by it and believe you're back in the 18th century when you're in the house, if you ignore the light outlets.
And the dishwasher. Who says they don't make them like they used to? Great old house.
It was a beautiful house. Did you see those wide plank floors?
Yeah, nice. They're blending a little of the old with a little of the new. She mentioned the dishwasher, and I think there are some other modern appliances down there. One thing that you learn from that story, really, I think, is that new is not necessarily the best.
Right, you're exactly right.
We've assembled some tools, some of which are from the 18th century that were probably used to build homes like that, and then we have their contemporary gadgets, really, in many cases. Take us through some of these.
Well, let's start with the hammer, because the hammer has not made drastic leaps and bounds. Basically, the hammer looks and has the same shape as it did 200 years ago. However, each tool back then was made to fit a specific person. So what has happened in essence is the fact that this hammer has the same handle as today's handle, except it's in wood, and the head is still the same. There's not the balance, though.
Yeah, it's very top heavy. I picked it up. You're right. So these were
They were personally made tools for each individual person.
The contemporary gadget of the 20th century.
And that's exactly what this thing is. This is just a gadget. It's a nutcracker and a hammer put together. I mean, it's $15 worth of nothing. There's no balance to it. There's no real handle. Nothing works for this on me.
What do you prefer when it comes to a hammer?
I prefer a hammer. Now this is a hammer. It's got a beautiful weight, it's got a nice balance, it's got a good grip, okay? And it's going to last for a long time, and it's the same price as the Gadget.
Is this your personal hammer?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
What's with the tape?
I'm very colorful.
Okay.
Oh, very
All right, wrenches.
Okay.
Same thing, wrenches haven't changed a lot.
Wrenches have not changed a lot. Basically, the shape of a wrench, front and back, are the same. Okay, it's all the same. However, this is specific to something. This was made for a carriage, only one carriage.
Wow.
You couldn't share this tool. You can go to a next carriage and use it on the other carriage. One thing it's used for, and that's all. Okay, but the wrench, again, it hasn't made any leaps and bounds. Then, what happened in the Industrial Revolution, okay, you came up with mass-produced adjustable wrenches. Now, see, you see the same shape, however, now you have a swivel head, and you can hit many different sizes.
This was revolutionary at the time.
Oh yeah, this was fantastic. This was the rave. This was terrific.
All right.
But what happens is you still don't, you know,
Can't
I'm
lock
still not
in.
too happy
Yeah.
with that, okay?
The Gadget of today's wrench is terrific.
Check this thing out. It's just, it's not,
The
I'm not
6-in-1.
happy.
The 6-in-1.
The
This is
6-in-1.
$9.99, 4 payments.
Oh yeah, and you can, with the other knives things that you can get on TV.
That's great.
But
Really, this has been, the crescent wrench has been a standard for
terrific.
a long time.
Yeah, and you can get that in various sizes, pay the same amount of money, and have just a better tool. It's adjustable, it'll fit just as many heads as the Gadget, and it works much nicer.
All right, something that has changed quite a bit is the way we measure things.
Exactly. And what we're measuring here, this was a carpenter's ruler, okay? This only goes to 2 feet. That's it.
Very limiting.
Very limiting.
Fits nicely in the pocket, though.
It does, but it was extremely limiting, okay? Then what happened is they picked up something, well, they need more space, they need to do a little bit more distance, and they did this.
Which was a good idea at the time.
It's a fantastic idea, however, it's made out of cloth, which means I always need someone to help me, or somebody to be on the other end, or something. Okay, but this one goes to about 4 feet now, okay? Then we have today's ruler, and today's pull-out ruler.
It's rigid and has a lock, so you can do this by yourself.
Right.
And this is what you prefer?
Right, I prefer this because, look, I'm locked in, I can walk anywhere, do anything, and just, I don't need anybody's help.
But before we end this segment, we have to talk about the gadget of this. Because,
I know you like that.
Yeah, this is take a look at this. Is like a space-age toy. And what do you turn on here?
Yeah, push down there, okay, and that kind of lights it up. Now point it at something.
All right, I'll point it.
And
I'll
hold
point
it down
right-
for a few seconds.
Okay.
Okay, once you hold that down for a few seconds, it will measure distance
There
from
it
the
is.
front of this to whatever distance you're going
But
to.
you have no idea what you're measuring. And
It's $40 worth of gadget.
this is one of those
It
things
adds-
that Dave Diner, our floor manager, would pull out and just go, let me get that for you. Let me just, yeah, you're about 8.5, yeah, something like that. Right, Dave?
Absolutely.
Okay. No. So the thing, great demonstration of how tools have evolved.
And they have come a long way. However, steer clear of the gadgets. Stay with your good standard basic tools.
Great. Thanks, Kat.
You're welcome.
But when we come back, finally, our painters are in the ballroom. They are anxiously awaiting you, Kat,
Yeah, they
to
are.
give them some tips.
Yeah, they are.
When we come back, we'll join them back there for more Fix It right after this. Welcome back to Fix It. Now, in our last segment, we were talking about the evolution of tools from the 18th century to the 20th century, and one in particular that I'm not sure I explained well enough. Take a look at this, Dante. This is an electronic tape measure. You turn it on, and then I'm going to measure how far we are away from our family of friends who is going to paint over there. And there it is. Dante, 22 feet and 6 inches, which that's about right, actually, isn't it? I don't know if these things work, but they're just loads of fun to sit around and point and do things like this. All right, painting. The FX Ballroom has perhaps one of the neatest sets you're going to see anywhere on any television show. The painting in here is terrific. Now, we're not going to show you how to get quite that detailed today, but Kat is going to take us through the basics, and we have a few folks to help us out. Guys, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Mona.
Mona?
I am Karen.
Karen?
Hi, I'm Crystal.
Crystal?
Hi, I'm Stacy.
Mona and Stacy, mother and daughter?
Right.
And friends?
Right.
All right, you guys done much painting before?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah? So there's a few tips here that hopefully will make the next job a little easier and not so messy. Kat, get us started. What were they doing when we walked in here?
What they were doing when we walked in was they were actually taping the moldings of the door frames, the window frames, whatever you don't want to paint with wall paint. And what they've done is that they actually had a couple of short pieces, and I recommend more of a long piece or a single piece for what you're doing. But they're using painter's tape, and what painter's tape is it's a less sticky paint tape, so when you peel it off, it doesn't take off the paint.
All right, guys, you're going to continue masking so that
Exactly.
we can get
So,
to painting?
you guys wanna come
All
back
right,
and
go for that.
finish
The
here?
next thing we want to talk about is the type of paint.
Right. You have enamel paint and you have latex paint. Enamel paint is an oil-based paint that is used in rooms that either are cleaned a lot or have a lot of moisture. A latex paint is used in your living rooms, your bedrooms, your dining rooms, and it comes in flat, it comes in semi-gloss, then again, you know what I mean? So either one, you can get different shines.
Okay, brushes. A variety of brushes to choose from. What do you like?
Okay, the first thing you have for the big job on the walls is you have your paint pans here, and we have rollers all ready to go. And then you have a real assortment of brushes, and the first thing I want to talk about is actually your cutting brush. And what a cutting brush does is as follows. And these are going to be my cutters, so I have...
The cutting brush has a real angle to it.
Yes, it does. I'm glad you noticed that because there's a purpose for this, and I'm going to show you as soon as I
Okay.
get to the wall. Okay, ladies, here's your paint.
And what you're doing is called cutting.
Exactly. Would you dip in? Okay. And what it's doing is it's called cutting. And cutting is working or outlining the area around your windows and doors. Very good. Let's turn that sideways like this. And that's the cutting motion right there. You see that sideways angle?
Sure.
And that's why it's called cutting, because what you're doing is you're trying to get away from the windows and doors. Now, I've been painting for so long, I don't use tape.
Of course you don't.
And I can cut around things, and that's what it means, cut around the windows and doors, because you're going to paint this either a different color or a different gloss.
Okay.
Okay?
And then you come back in with the roller and you have the overlap.
Right, and
All right.
that's what a roller does. That comes and does the big base job of the wall.
Mona, a little more paint, okay? Don't be
Don't be
frugal with
skimpy.
it.
Don't
All
be
right.
skimpy.
So, now, guys, can you? Are we done over here? Are we masked off?
Yeah, I think they're-
okay.
they're pretty
Great. Hang
good.
tight because we're going to use you for this rolling thing.
Okay.
Once we've cut in, and you want to cut enough distance that you
Right.
can roll over
They're
it.
going to cut, see what they have here, and I'll tell you why. They've got a nice 2 or 3 inch gap between the molding, and I'll use it back here so they can keep working. They've got a gap now of paint that they put on, they
That's
paint it
great.
on, so then the roller can come back
Sure.
and do its job
And you don't have
without
to
hitting,
rub up,
right,
get
rub
the
up
paint
against
on.
the molding, rub up against stuff you don't want that color
You
paint
guys
on.
ready to roll?
You
This
wanna
is
learn
really
the-
the fun part.
The technique, yeah, well, the rolling is the best because first of all, you get sprinkled on in the whole 9 yards. So you get dirty, so it's a lot of fun. So what you're going to do is you can pick yours up
But
and
with
follow
those
me along.
nifty FX jackets they have on,
I'm telling you,
our
aren't they
fix-it
they're
jackets.
posh.
They're
posh,
pretty
I'm
nice.
telling
Okay.
you. What you want to do is you're going to just gently, and then you're going to come back up, and you want to get paint almost all the way around. And if you don't, I wouldn't worry about it because as the brush rolls on the wall, but you also want to make sure you don't dip.
Kat, is that cutting okay? Because Mona and Karen have moved on.
Yeah, actually, that's a pretty decent
Good,
job
all
for
right.
first-time cutters. So we don't have a lot of paint on here, which is pretty good. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take that, hold it nice and steady, come here to your wall, and you can start over here. You can start halfway. You're going to go up and down. Let's go with the strokes here, up and down, and you're going to press a little bit, okay? If you see this choppiness, that's okay. Just let's get the brush started, and then you can turn around and re-dip in your pan.
Now,
so
it
you
looks-
go re-dip, and then just go over that again.
It looks like Stacy has more paint on hers, and it's
Right.
going on a little.
Exactly, because what we're going to have to do here is it crystal? You're going to have to get crystals to flip. See, there you go. Now you got it flipped around. And press a little harder. You need a little bit of firmness.
All right.
And remember always to get that edge off. Okay?
Any technique when it comes to actually putting the roller on? Because I've always heard, do a W, do a V.
No, yeah, you're making the alphabet on my walls.
That's what I
No.
heard.
What you want to do is exactly what I showed the girls. You want to make it an up and down motion,
Okay.
and as soon as you need to move over, you just angle the roller a little bit, and you keep going up and down. And they're doing a splendid job. Do you see any lines? In your W and V, you're going to see those lines when they dry.
It looks great, and so do the jackets. Okay, come over and tell me about. Guys, keep going. You're doing a great job.
Don't
And I'm-
skimp on paint.
I just got a new apartment, so you can come over later and show us about the rest of these brushes because there's all kinds of these things. Do they work?
Again, gadgets.
Yeah.
These things are gadgets, and people use them because the ceilings are usually different than your walls. And again, it's a cutting tool. These are cutting tools, but I can't get a grip on them. They make sometimes a very flat press mark. I'm not
Compare
happy.
nylon and natural bristles.
Okay, nylon versus natural. The nylon brush will lay a heavier bristle mark. The natural will lay a lighter, smoother bristle mark.
One thing I wonder about are these electric sort of big machine rollers that you have to plug in the tubing and put the paint in here.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty heavy duty. That's pretty heavy duty, and every time you have to go to change your paint, you've got to clean this, you've got to clean the tubing, you've got to clean your roller. If you're not painting on a professional level, get your regular
Last
roller.
tip. I saw you doing something in here. You were pounding a screw or a nail in here to make holes. What is that about?
That's because you're very messy, and I got to do this. And every time I have you paint, there's paint all over everything. What I've just done is I've nailed some holes right here in the lip of the paint
Yeah, you're
can.
actually, let's show this. You're actually putting them inside
Yes.
this area.
Exactly. And see, do you know what happened? You just dripped paint and it went
And it
right in the
sunk
hole
right
and back in the
back
can.
in, yeah.
So this way, that stops it from coming outside the can.
This
and
is
it
when
gets
you take the
someplace to go.
brush and
Exactly.
wipe. Great tips. How's it look? This looks great, actually.
They're doing fantastic.
You're doing nice.
Get up real close to that edge mark there, and you're almost there.
By the way,
Terrific.
Crystal and Mona, in case you're wondering, you're exactly 7 feet 6 inches away from me. All right, when we return, we'll finish up our painting
gotta take
segment,
this stuff away.
and we will also give you some tips on keeping your home smelling clean and fresh as Fix It continues after this. Where'd my... Welcome back to Fix It. Let's check back in with our painters, see how they're doing back there. Crystal, Mona, Stacy, and Karen. Ooh, they're
that's
peeling
not
off
bad.
the masking. That is great.
That looks good.
They did a good job. Can we pull out a little wider and see how much of the wall they painted? That looks really good. That is a great tip because if you take the time to do that off the top, it's going
Exactly.
to save you the time. All right, you have one quick tip here at the end,
Yes,
which
I
is
do.
if you have a bad smell, this is a good way to fix it, I guess.
Exactly.
A little sugar.
Right? A little sugar and a little cinnamon in a warm oven, and that's exactly where I'm going with this pan as soon as I do this.
This is the kind of thing if you've had people over for dinner and maybe you cooked fish or something like that and it's
Right.
got an odor.
Right. And what
What's-
you're going to do,
What do you put the oven? What do you set it to?
warm, and you leave it ajar, and
Very
then what
nice.
happens is it
It
swats
fills
through
the
the kitchen.
room. We're filling it right now. That's all for a Fix It. Remember, if it's broke, yeah, fix it. See you next time.